Tonight, we are working with the feet, specifically pronation and supination. This is supination. You can't see. I'll go through the props first. We're going to use a small resistance loop. I'm using a medium. I wouldn't use heavier than a medium, but a light might be comfortable as well. I have 2 blocks. We'll at least use one, if not both. And then I have a washcloth. Mine is not a washcloth, but a washcloth might be handy for something as well. And then the blanket we'll use as usual if you need for your knee when we're down in a half kneeling. And then the ball. And we're going to start with the ball. And I'm going to walk close so that you can see my feet. So you might not see my head, but you don't really need to see my head. So we're going to start just kind of bringing awareness to the sensation of our bottom of our foot. So I barely have any pressure on my foot that I'm rolling right now. I'm just more or less trying to cover all of the surface of the bottom of my foot. So I'm going forward and backwards. I'm making little circles with my foot on the ball. I'm going side to side. Right now, no pressure. I'm also standing next to a wall in case I need it for balance. Good. Now we're going to come to where the heel is on the ground. And you have the ball under the knuckles of your pinky toe, and kind of the first or the last 3 toes of your foot are on the ball. And I'm just going to push into it and come off of it a little bit. So push into it and come off. And again, I'm not trying to necessarily massage the bottom of my foot. That's not wrong. It's just not necessarily what I'm trying to do now. What I'm trying to do is more or less mobilize each individual bone inside of my foot that leads to a toe. And I'm going to start to wrap my toes around and then lift my toes off. So as I push down, I'm going to wrap my toes around and lift off. Now I'm going more to the middle of the ball of my foot, and I'm doing the same thing. So I'm pushing my knee out over my toes. I'm wrapping the toes as I'm kind of pushing the ball into my foot. And then lastly, on the big toe knuckle. Good. Now I'm going to come right behind the balls of my feet. So more in the arch next to the balls of my feet. And I'm doing the same thing. So I'm kind of pushing down and rolling my toes around and then lifting off. And it doesn't have to be like I'm trying to squish the bottom of my foot. I'm just trying to create a little bit of pressure so I can get the bones of my foot to move. And you might center it more behind the big toe knuckle. We're more in the arch than on the bones of the knuckles now. And then you might take it out to the pinky toe and do the same thing. And I'm lifting and spreading my toes and then trying to kind of curl my toes around the ball. Good. Now bring the ball of your foot on the ground. And the ball is now right in that part of my foot, the back of my arch where the heel is. And I'm curling back and rolling back and forth. So now I'm more or less into the arch. Going side to side. I'm going to bring it now in the middle of the arch. And I'm not going to put full pressure on my foot, but I'm going to the inside arch. And I'm just rolling to feel. And I'm even coming up into the inside arch of my foot. So high up into that arch. And I'm not trying to put a lot of pressure on this. Just trying to bring awareness to the inner arch and then the opposite off to the pinky edge Trying to bring aware of that outer edge of the foot and mobilize that fifth metatarsal is what it's called, the pinky toe bone. Good. And then the final thing, you're going to push just the big toe down and kind of push down and start to fan the toes out like you're trying to pull the whole foot apart. Then bring all the knuckles down and stretch all the toes and bring them down. So you're trying to create space between your big toe and your second toe. And then just hold that. If you want to pulse off and up and down, like the ball is your high heel and you're kind of tapping your heel, you can. Good. Let's do the other foot. So before you go to the other foot, just bring both feet down on the ground and feel how it feels different. And then we'll go through all the things on the other foot. It's my left foot, it might not be. So first, we're just rolling, trying to cover every part of our foot. I have no pressure on the foot on the ball. I have all my weights on my standing leg, my right leg. Oops. So much so that it got away. So you can go forward and back. You can go side to side. You can draw circles in both directions. You also might feel you're doing a little bit of work for that outer hip standing leg. And then bring the heel to the ground and feel the balls of your feet on the ball. And we're gonna bend the knee forward of the toe, put pressure on the ball, and then lift off. And again, it's not about how hard we squish. It's more about, can you feel all the bones in your foot kind of being spread apart as you bring that pressure into the foot? And then we're going to add the toes. So as you bend the knee, curl the toes over the ball. And as you straighten the knee, lift the toes off the ball, but keep the balls of your feet on. So right now I have the ball underneath the middle three knuckles. I'm going to go ahead and move it out to the outer edge, so the pinky edge. And I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to bend the knee over my toes, curl my toes, like I'm trying to squish the ball with my toes. And then as I pull back, lift the toes. And then go to the big toe knuckle. So pronation and supination is basically strength in your midfoot, the mid part of your foot. So this arch section of your foot. But how our toes work, specifically our big toe, is a huge part of that. Go ahead and now bring it behind the arches or behind the knuckles into the part of your arch that is closest to the toes. And we're going to go through that same thing. So as you bend the knee forward, you're curling your toes over and pulling it back. And when we pronate and supinate, some people may have heard that, and you're going to get the other sections too. So go about 3 in each direction, middle, pinky, big toe. Some people hear from their doctors, oh no, you pronate, or oh no, you're a supinator. Well, we want to be able to do both. It's when we hang out in one and can't do the other that we have more issues. Bring it now to the heel, so the ball of your foot is on the floor and the ball is right in front of the heel where the arch is, and you're rolling side to side. And then keep the big toe down, spread all the other toes around from it. And you might pulse up and down off the ball. And if you don't know what pronation and supination is, I'll tell you that in a second. And then we're going to go into the inner arch. and then the outer arch. So the pinky toe edge. Every step that we take, we go through pronation and supination. And we should. And if we don't, then typically we're going to have issues above the feet. So we might have issues in our ankles or our knees or our hips or our low back. So if we can get our foot to function a little bit more, then we might have less issues up the chain. So pronation is, and everybody do this, is when your arches move towards the floor. So like you're trying to collapse your arches into the floor, and you may feel that your knees want to bend, you can do that. So it's not wrong to do this. But notice how comfortable this is for you or not. And then the opposite is supination. So keep your big toe knuckles on the floor and try to lift the arch off the floor. And you may feel that this is harder. You may feel that your toes grip. Just kind of notice, or this may be easy for you. So now we're going to combine these. And you're just going to roll one arch towards the floor as the other arch lifts. So kind of going side to side. If the knees bend, that's fine. You can also try it with straight knees. So when I rock to the right, my right arch is off the floor and my left arch is pushing down. So go there and kind of hang out there for a second. And then switch. So lift the left arch and push the right arch down. And you may find that this is really hard. Like it is almost impossible for me to press my right arch down. And then go back and forth again. So I'm going to turn around. You can use a wall for this. We'll return to this later, but we're going to add, I'm going to call them rainbow arcs. So we're going to let both arches fall in, lift up onto our toes, feel the weight on the ball mount of our big toes, and then rock the weight out to the pinky toes and bring the heels back down. Drop the arch, lift up onto the big toes, roll to the pinky toes, keep the big toe knuckles down, and roll out. So do it a couple of more times in this direction. Notice how much you crunch your toes up. And see if you can resist that. See if you can think of stretching your toes straight instead. And then go the other way. So go through up through supination and down through pronation. Good. Walk around and just kind of start to notice how all this starts to settle in your feet, how you start to ground down. And then we're going to come down onto the floor. We're going to come down to the floor where we have a wall close by. We're not going to start with the wall. We're also going to have a block close by, but we will eventually put our feet on the wall. So when we talk pronation, supination, it's the ability for your foot to have strength or get rigid. That's when we go into supination, or to be able to roll through pronation. And oftentimes we favor one or the other. And a lot of it is a lack of either foot mobility, those bones that we played with on the floor, standing, or a lack of strength in the intrinsic muscles of the arch. So the muscles of your arch. So we're going to come into a modified bridge pose. So feet are in line with your hip. You're going to keep the full ball of your foot on the floor. So you're not going to lift up the heels way up like this. You're just going to hover the heels slightly off the floor so that you feel the full ball remain in contact to the floor. You're going to lift your hips as high as you can. And just balance with your feet, the full ball of your foot on the floor. So my heels are maybe a half an inch off the floor. I could lock out and come full into plantar flexion, but that doesn't really challenge the muscles of my feet. So after about 30 seconds, which we're probably there, we're going to shift the weight into whichever foot you feel more stable on initially. Really glue the ball mount of your big toe, so your big toe knuckle, to the ground, and find the pinky toe as well, and then lift the left knee without dropping the hips. So again, that heel is about a quarter of an inch off the floor. So keeping it close to the floor. You may feel some cramping in your hamstrings and your glutes or in the bottom of your foot. This is kind of a hint of areas that are connected to that foot strength and where you may want to focus a little bit more. Bring the left foot, or whichever foot you had lifted, bring down. Find that grounding on both feet, that center, and then shift the weight to the opposite foot, the foot you haven't, or that you lifted the last time. Feel the ball mount to the big toe and the pinky toe rooted down, and lift the other foot off the ground. Again, you might feel some cramping. That just highlights the weaknesses in the chain. And you may feel that connection of your foot to the back of your leg and your hip. Good. Release down. Pull both your knees in towards your chest. If you want to stretch your hamstrings, you can grab behind your knees and just bend and straighten your knees a few times, letting go of whatever cramping. So if the cramping was excessive, if there was too much cramping, I want you to repeat what we just did with the foot on a block. And when you do it with the foot on the block, you're going to keep your heel in line with your toes. Or if you didn't feel a lot of cramping, you're going to bring your feet onto the wall. So either start with both feet on a block or both feet on the wall. And you would use 2 blocks, obviously, if you have your feet on blocks. If you have your feet on the wall, lift the heels maybe a half an inch away from the wall. Without lifting the hips, imagine that you are trying to scrape your balls of your feet down the wall as you stretch your toes long. Maybe your toes are just slightly touching the wall, and you may feel the backs of your hamstrings again connect. If you have your feet on the block, make sure it's just the balls of your feet on the block. So you're dragging down if you have your feet on the wall. Then start to lift your hips off the wall, off the floor. Not a lot. Maybe 2 inches. All the while, we're scraping the balls of the feet without gripping the toes. We're stretching the toes long. And then we're just going to start to pulse the heels. So not the hips, but the heels, as if we were going to tap the wall, but we're not. And I am feeling that I am really able to do this in my right foot and not so much in my left foot. So you may notice that you have a preference as well. Good. Take a break. Draw the knees in towards your chest. If again, you need to stretch your hamstrings, you can either go heels on the wall and point and flex your toes, or you can grab behind your knees and bend and straighten. Whatever feels best for you. So if, again, manage what your sensation is. If that was a lot of sensation, you can either back down to the blocks or to the floor, Or you can stay where we were and repeat that again, or we can progress to the next step. So heels are about a half an inch away from the wall. We're dragging the balls of the feet down. Toes are stretching long. We're going to lift the hips about 2 inches off the floor. I'm going to choose my right foot to stay on the wall because that's my stronger one. And I'm going to lift my left foot knee to chest. And now I'm just going to pulse with my right heel. And all the while I'm pulsing with my right heel, I'm also dragging the ball of the foot down the wall to activate the foot muscles. Do about 5 more. Good. And then we're going to switch. And my left foot comes down. Lift the hips a couple of inches off the floor. Lift the right knee. Drag the foot down the wall. It's not moving, but I'm thinking that I'm trying to peel the foot down the wall as I pulse the heel towards and away from the wall. And I don't know how you feel, but I feel a huge difference between my side that does that easily and my side that struggles. It's trying to figure out how to do the movement at all. Good. Pull the knees in, and again, either legs up the wall, pointing and flexing the toes, or knees in and pointing and flexing the toes. So we're going to do one more progression of this. Every time there's a progression, there's an option to regress it, to go back to the floor, to try out the block, to keep what you have been doing, to do it with both feet. So I'm going to go to my stronger leg, because sometimes I feel like going with the leg that you do it with more naturally kind of teaches your other side how to do it. So I just have the ball of my right foot on the wall. I'm starting to drag as I stretch my toes long. I'm not gripping with my toes. I'm lifting my hips off the floor. Now I'm going to start to hop. And every time I land my hop, I'm pulling my foot down. And I might hop my foot up the wall, and I might hop my foot down the wall. I'm just kind of playing. But every time I land, the heel does not touch the wall. And I'm dragging the ball of the foot towards the floor. That's enough for me. And straighten that leg. So obviously this is a foot connection, but you're seeing how much the hamstrings, the back of your leg, are connected to how you stand on your foot, how you connect to some sort of surface and your foot. So now we get to do it on the not so bright side. So first, drag the foot. This is where I really want to grip with my toes, is on my not so bright side. Drag, lift the hips, and then start to hop. And every time you hop, notice if you're trying to catch with your toes, and instead think of pulling, scraping the foot down the wall towards the floor. Sweating on this side. Good. Pull it in. Whatever you need to do to release the tension. And then roll to either side and come up to a seated position. So we're going to take the small loop, the banded loop, And you're going to take one end of it and wrap it around the arch of your foot. And then the other end around the top of your knee. I'm going to interlace my fingers around because it just helps me to not move my knee. So I'm going to interlace my fingers around and just start to windshield wiper my foot side to side. So as you do this, when you windshield wiper your foot in, you're going to feel the pinky edge of your foot push into the band more. So hold that and just pulse that edge of your foot down towards the floor without letting your knee roll out. So you're holding the knee forward. Good. This is kind of what part of supination is, right? So if we go the other way, we windshield wiper the foot out. Now push down more with the arch into the band. My knee is still facing forward, right? So I want to do this, but I'm holding my knee in so I don't. Good. Now go in and out again. Bring it now more to the ball of your foot, and let's do the same thing. So knee stays still. We're windshield wipering in and out. We're mobilizing this bone on the outside of our shin, which can also be connected to sometimes that lack of supination or pronation. And the next time you go out, push the ball of your big toe like it's going to the floor. And at the same time, I'm kind of pulling my pinky toe towards me. I'm not letting my knee go out. My knee is right in front of my chest. Good. And then go the other way. And now I'm pushing down. I'm rotating my foot in and I'm pushing down with the pinky edge. And I'm rolling the big toe towards me. So a lot of pronation and supination is ankle stuff. So you may feel some of this stuff in your ankle. Now I'm going to wrap it around my big toe only. And I'm going to come up onto my knee. And I'm going to turn in this direction so that you can see what I'm doing. So we also have the option to stretch the other arch as we're doing this. So you can curl. I like to pull on my toes so that I make sure all my toes are forward and then tuck the toes under. You can sit back on your heel if that's comfortable. Or you can just see how far back you can go. It's going to stretch the arch of your foot quite a bit. Then bring your hands to hold down all the toes that are not banded by the band. So your big toe is the only one that's banded. You're going to let the band pull your toe towards your shin as much as possible, as if you could pull the toe out of the band. And you're going to hold there. So as if you could pull the toe further towards your shin, and you're going to hold there. Again, you don't have to be this far back, right? I have mobility in my toe and ankle. You can be as far up as this, but you can still hold the toes and let this band curl your toe back. And then you're going to use the big toe to push the band down. And I wish you could see this, but I'm letting the band pull my toe off. And then I'm pushing the band to the ground with the toe. Let it lift off, push it down and hold. Let it lift off, push it down and hold. Let it lift off, push it down and hold, and come up. Keep pushing the big toe down and lift all the other toes off the ground. all the other toes down. Don't curl them. And let just your big toe lift. Good. Remove the band and grab your block. I'm going to get this way again so you can see what I'm doing, kind of. So you're going to prop the big toe on the block and let all the other toes lie on the other side of the block. You're going to grab the other end of the block and you're going to hold the block in place, and you're going to push the knee forward of the toes and push your big toe into the block. And then as you come back, you're going to try to lift the toe off the block without lifting all the other toes. Hand to the knee, push the knee over the toe, grab the block, push forward, push the toe hard into your block, keep the big toe knuckle down, lift back, and try to lift the big toe off the block without lifting the other toes. Good. One more time. Go forward, knee over your toe. Big toe knuckle stays down. Push the toe into the block. Push hard. Try not to curl the other toes. And then lift back and try to keep all the other toes down as you lift the toe off the block. And if this is hard, good. You're on to one of your problems. Immobility in the big toe is a huge issue for a lot of people. Grab your band again, and we're going to just roll the band up to make some feedback for our arch. So we're going to take the band and we're going to lift just the inside of the arch up and place the band under the inside of the arch. It should not be under your pinky toe bone. Hand to your knee, push your knee forward, and roll the arch down onto the band. As you pull the knee back, keep the big toe mount down and try to squish up the arch off the band. Use your hand on your knee, push it forward, let the arch go down, the knee goes straight forward, don't let it fall in. Push it out. Arch goes down. Drag it back and try to lift just the arch off the band. I'm going to move the band so that you can see what it looks like. I'm shortening the space between my big toe and my inner heel to create an arch. So you're just going forward, arch down, knee straight forward, come back, arch lifts off the band. We're going to progress this to standing. So come to stand however you want. And this is part of gait, right? Every time we go forward, every time we step with the back foot forward, we go into pronation on this foot, right? So we're going to start in a staggered stance. So whatever foot you've been working on, continue to work on that foot. Staggered stance. Push the knee over the toe, let the arch go down. And as you pull the knee away, try to shorten the space between your big toe and your inner heel. So just repeat that a few times. And as you're doing this, notice the direction that your knee points. Make sure it's gliding over the second and third toe, not over the big toe. But the main focus is, can you create that arch as you straighten the knee? And can you move the arch towards the floor as you bend the knee? And we're going to add on. So we're going to step the back foot forward and let the arch come down. Bend that knee a little bit and step the leg back, lift the arch off. Bend the knee, step the back leg forward, arch down, step back, short foot. So we're creating a short foot. Each time we step the back leg forward, we scrunch the space between the big toe knuckle and the inner heel to create a short foot. Good. We're going to go back down to the ground and do it all again on, well, take a walk. And let's take a walk in a special sort of way. So heel to toe. Bring your right foot in front of your left big toe. Roll through and switch. And just notice the difference between the foot that you've worked and the foot that you haven't. When you need to turn around and walk backwards. Heel to toe. And just notice the difference between your feet. Good. We're going to come back to that seated position first. We start with the band and the arch and wrapped around the top of the knee. And I'm sitting back enough that I don't have to move my knee out to the side. I'm kind of keeping my knee in line with my hip point. And first, I'm just rotating the foot in and out. And then I'm going to start to pay more attention to the arch. And as I take the foot in, I'm bringing the pinky arch down a little bit more. And as I take the foot out, I'm taking the inner arch down a little bit more. And then the next time I go out, I'm going to stay out and really try to push the inner arch into the band as I try to pull my pinky toe towards my knee. And I'm not letting this move at all. I'm making all the movement happen in this part of my leg. And then I'm going the opposite, trying to push the pinky edge towards the floor as I pull my big toe knuckle towards my head. And I'm not letting my knee move. And then windshield wiper a few more times, and then bring it to the ball of your foot. And do the same thing. So first start by windshield wipering. And then start to think when you windshield wiper. As you go out, big toe pushes down more. And as you come in, pinky toe pushes down more. Go out, stay out, big toe pushes towards the ground. As you pull your pinky toe, try not to let your knee drop in like I'm doing. And then go the other way. Try not to let your knee roll out. Good. And we're going to take it off and bring it around the big toe. And I'm going to show you face in or face forward this time. So we're going to come up to our back knee. If you need a blanket under your knee, just know that that option is always there for you. Reach back, curl, pull your toes, and feel all of your toes forward so the knuckles push back on the back foot. And you can send your hips back as far as you want, or you can be as far up as you want. And first, we're just allowing this to pull the big toe towards our shin as we spread all the other toes. And then I'm going to think that I'm going to try to lift the big toe off the band, pulling it closer to my shin. And you may feel that this is working your arch, and it should be. And then you're going to start to push the toe down and let it lift. Push the toe down and let it lift. And as you do that, can you stabilize your ankle? So can you not let your arch collapse that much? Push down, hold down. Try not to grip the other toes. Just push down with your big toe. And stabilize the sides of your ankles. So notice if you collapse in or out and try to pull it all off the floor. Good. Release the band and switch to the block. So we have the block. We're going to prop the big toe on the block, but the toe mount, the knuckle, stays on the floor. We're going to use the hand to hold the block in place and then use our other hand to push our knee out over our toe. Really push the big toe into the block. And then as you come up, try to lift just the big toe off the block. And it might not. Go forward, use your hand to hold the block in place. And then push the big toe into the block. Lisa, that's a great idea. You might not be able to get your hand to the block, use a wall instead. And then as you come off, try to lift the big toe off the block. One more time, go forward. Try to push the big toe into the block. And then lift off, lift the big toe off. Try to keep the other toes on the ground without over gripping. Remove the block. Take your little resistance band again. We're going to make that feedback back for the arch. And again, what we're trying to do is to go between pronation, arch down, and supination, arch lifting off the band. Or short foot. The space between your big knuckle and your inner heel becomes shorter. So push forward, knee over toe. Arch drops down. Make sure the knee goes straight over the toe. As you come off, try to shorten the space, lifting the arch off the band. And just feel if you can create that short foot. I am noticing again, my left foot likes to grip my toes. And that's one way to get strength in your foot. But it would be awesome if we could actually get strength in the arch of the foot rather than using our toes to grip all the time. I had a coach one time tell me when I didn't have balance on one leg, a movement on my one leg, he's like, just grip with your toes. And I'm like, I need arch strength. Gripping with our toes doesn't create this kind of arch strength. And then come up, however you want to come up. We're in that staggered stance. We're starting with the back leg just staying where it is. Push the knee straight out over the second and third toe. Watch the tendency to drop in. And then as you pull the leg straight, create that short foot without gripping the toes. I say that because I'm gripping my toes. And you may grip your toes for a while, right? But just noticing that you are means it's something that you can work on that might bring more stability to your foot and ankle. Now we're going to add the back foot movement. So we're going to bend the knee, step the other foot forward as the arch goes down. And then as we go back, lift the arch off the band. Arch goes down, arch lifts off. Arch goes down, arch lifts off. And if this is hard, just know, if you haven't been doing this most of your life, it will be hard. Good. Let's do the heel to toe walk again. So start by placing big toe or heel in front of your big toe of the opposite foot and roll through the full foot. And you will feel that your foot grounds down, pronates, and you may feel that as the foot lifts off the ground, it rocks through the outer edge. Don't overthink that. Take your ball. I'm going to turn around and face away from you because it'll be easier for you to see what I'm doing. I'm going to take the ball and place it in that web part between the floor and your ankle bone. So between your heels. Hold on to a wall. And you're going to lift the heels off the floor. Keep the big toe knuckles down and kind of wrap your heels around the ball. Keep that as you lower down and then let the heels separate. So lift up, scoop the heels underneath the ball, keep the big toe knuckles down. And as you lower down slowly, stretch the heels out wider. Look at your toes and notice how much you try to grip with your toes, especially on the way down. And see if you can stretch your toes long. Remove the ball. Step 1 foot back and bring the heel to the ground. Make sure the toe and the heel are pointing straight towards the wall and lift your other leg off the wall or off the ground. So just a nice stretch calf stretch. And now roll the arch down and off. So pronation, supination on the foot that's still on the ground. Switch feet. So step your front foot about a foot away from the wall. Step your back leg as far back as you can, where you can have your toe and your heel pointing straight towards the wall. Or the heel's in line with the toes. The toes are pointing to the wall. Press a little bit more through the heel and lift your front foot off the wall or off the floor, or not. Pronate and supinate. And then find that steady space in between. Good. Take the band and place the band around the arches of your feet. So we're going to start to take this into movements that we do more commonly, where we don't think about our arches, but how we use our arches when we do these things is really important. So first, just allow the band to pull you into pronation and then resist out. And as you resist out into supination, keep your big toe knuckles on the ground. So feel both the in and the out. And then push your big toes down and spread all your other toes out, away, almost so much that your feet point out a little bit. And then keep pushing this part of your foot out into the band, keeping the big toes down. And try a squat. And you don't have to go low into a squat unless you're feeling like you really want to. But what we're feeling here is that connection to our arch, right? So I'm not losing. My foot is not collapsing into pronation at all as I'm squatting up and down. And just notice how this feels. Notice the gripping of the toes. I say that because, of course, my left foot is gripping again. Good. Go down, stay down. Lift the toes, press a little bit more through the ball mount of your big toe. And as if you are twisting your feet open. Look down at your arches and see. Do they look like an arch? Do you have an arch? Or are you feeling like you need to collapse into the arch? Come on up. We're going to keep the band on our right foot, but we're going to bring it to the ball of our right foot. So right foot is stepped forward. You're going to hold the band in your right hand and step the left foot back. So again, feel the band. You know what? We're going to do it on the big toe, only the big toe. So you're pulling up on your big toe, but you're going to push your big toe down into the ground. Take the knee outside of the band as you lunge. Try not to grip with your other toes. In fact, maybe you lift all the other toes and just press the big toe down. The band, the knees going outside of the band to resist that inner knee falling in and that grounding into pronation. You want to keep the arch as you lunge. Good. Release the big toe. Take the band, place it just under your big toe mount. So not the big toe, but the big toe mount. Whoop. Stand up straight. You might have to hold it in your left hand, which is going to be awkward. But see if you can balance on your right foot. Maybe switch to your left hand. Have the wall close by if you need it. And shift forward into a single leg deadlift. So from the side, still supporting with the big toe mount, the band, as you lift the back leg and come up and lift and come up, lift and come up. Take a walk. So hopefully you're feeling this connection between when our foot is active, the rest of our leg has to work. So as you walk, just notice the arches of your feet. Notice how it feels throughout the entire rest of your leg. And we're going to the other foot. So we'll start with the band wrapped around just the big toe. Step that foot forward, the other foot back, like you're on train tracks. So don't make it harder than it has to be. Keep the big toe pushing down into the ground and start to lunge. Let all the other toes either stretch long or maybe lift off the floor. So resist that urge to curl and grip with your other toes. Just plant your big toe down. And knees going outside of your band, right? So we're not allowing the knee to fall in. We're keeping it going out. And you may feel this work your entire leg in a way that's different than you've ever worked your entire leg. Then we're going to that balance pose. So bring it under the big toe knuckle. Only the big toe knuckle. Pull up on the band. You neither want the arch collapsing in or rotating out. Press more through the knuckle. Start to shift weight into that foot. And then maybe lift your other foot. You can always use a wall for balance. But notice when you use a wall, if you let your arch drop, if you fall back into that pronation. And then the final thing, hold it maybe with both hands, hinge in your front hip, and try that single leg, keeping the big toe mount, pressing the band down so you don't lose the band. Resist gripping with the other toe and try it out a few times. So remove the bands. Take your feet wide, so wider than shoulder distance apart, and just start to twist. And we're not twisting hard. We're just kind of sauntering side to side. Maybe close your eyes. And bring your awareness to your arches. As you twist from side to side, notice what your arches do. Notice if you feel one arch more responsive than the other. Notice, and this is I'm saying because I notice it in my foot, I notice that my left arch feels like it's been worked really hard. When I go into pronation, when I turn to the right, my left foot rolls into pronation. It's a good stretch. The next time you roll to the left, roll as far to the left as you can. And then find your arch of your left foot and feel how it's closer to the floor. And then roll that entire leg in, let the pelvis roll, and let the rib cage roll. Feel the right arch and find that short foot without gripping the right toes. Good. Go the other way, so roll as far to the left as you can. And then push the right arch down towards the floor. Roll the leg bone in, roll the pelvis to the left, roll the chest, and find the short foot in the left foot. So the arch sucks away from the floor. And then finish with just a few more rolls from side to side, seeing if you can initiate it with that pronation on one foot to the supination on the other foot. And then sit Take your fingers, interlace your fingers between all your toes, and just roll your toes and roll the other way. And then roll your toes. Use your thumb to push your heel the opposite way. And then grab on the outside with your thumb, roll your toes one way and your heel the opposite way. Grab your big toe knuckle with one hand, pull your toe out with your other, and kind of glide that big toe knuckle down and up. And then move it into flexion and extension. And just curl and extend all the other toes. We'll do the same thing on the other foot. So interlace all your fingers between your toes. So we're spreading our toes apart. And just roll the toes in both ways. And then curl your toes one way, use your thumb to push the toes the other way, or the heel the other way. And then switch directions. So mobilizing these bones in the midfoot, the section of your foot where the arch is so important for supination and pronation. Grab your big toe, knuckle with one hand, pull with the other, and glide the big toe in that main knuckle. This toe doesn't move at all. And then pull it as far into extension as you can. And having mobility in your big toe is also crucial to supination and pronation. It is how we push off, it's how we get strength, it's how we propel forward. And if we can't go through this extension of the big toe, it's going to go into our knee or it's going to go into our hip. So if you have knee or hip problems and you can't move your big toe, you may connect to the fact that maybe that's part of the reason why your knees or hips hurt. Good. And then you can just curl all your toes. And this concludes the foot class focus of abduction, or not abduction, adduction, pronation, supination. So hopefully you learned a lot about your feet and your feet feel a little bit more alive now.